Hey guys, welcome to the channel. You're watching the Art Occultist, and my name is Elisa. I'm so happy to have you here with me today. Before we start with today's topic, I just want to apologize because my voice sounds a bit off. I am currently recovering from a very nasty cold. So, yeah, bear with me. So, what are we speaking about today? Today, I've decided to speak about spiritual labels, the importance of choosing the correct labels for yourself, and I am going to go through some of the labels that I use to describe myself as a spiritual practitioner and why I use them. So, for some backstory, just a little bit, I've been a part of the online spiritual community since 2020 when I discovered TarotTube. Prior to that, my spiritual practice and explorations were deeply personal, and I was relying on books mainly. I wasn't watching any spiritual YouTube. Excuse me. Or, yeah, I wasn't aware of the online spiritual community as a whole prior to 2020. But I've been on a spiritual path since 2009. So, just for context. So 2020, I started watching spiritual content on YouTube, both TarotTube, but also lectures and basically spiritual content from around the world, different tradition, etc. 2022, I decided to start my own spiritual channel, tarot channel. I started in TarotTube, and now is 2026. I have the Art Occultist, and yeah, this is the background from my observation about the spiritual community online. And ever since 2020, when I first started watching spiritual content, I've seen all types of people calling themselves all types of things and using different labels to describe themselves. Some more successful than others, and some completely missing the mark of what that title or label that they were using actually holds within. So, yeah. Uh, if you see me looking down, I have my notes. I have some key points, and I'm just speaking from my mind as things come. But yeah, so let's start with the first point that I have on my list. Words hold power. The words that we use to describe ourselves in our daily life or in our spiritual practice, in the spiritual context, it doesn't really matter because each and every word hold power. They reflect our beliefs that we have about ourselves and the external world. And as a spiritual practitioner, as a person that's been on this path for well over 10 years now, let me tell you that you should be very mindful of how you talk to yourself and how you talk about yourself. And you should be very careful with the words that you choose because you have power and words have power. So, this is my first key point. Be very careful about how you use language in every situation, basically. The second point that I have on my list here is the importance of choosing the right labels for your journey, for yourself. First, this point is very important because words hold power and because you want to represent yourself accurately to other people, especially if you have an online presence, a YouTube, Instagram, what have you. If you practice your spirituality in any public form, for example, on the internet, you should be very mindful how you present yourself to those people that are watching you, that are consuming your content. If you're a solitary practitioner, meaning you don't have a public persona, or if nobody knows that you have a spiritual path, this is not of such big importance in terms of how you are perceived. But in that case, in both cases, actually, the labels that you choose also affect your practice in how you perceive yourself within your own practice. So choosing right labels for you serves a double purpose: how others perceive you, but it is also a reflection of how you perceive yourself. So you should be very, very mindful about that. Third key point that I have written down here on my list is labels as descriptors. So each and every label that you attach to your name, to yourself, to your practice is a descriptor. It holds power. Using labels can be very helpful, but at the same time, it can be limiting to a certain extent. It can be helpful in terms of you know who you are and you are attaching a very significant word to your experience, both for your own personal inner knowing, but as well, but so that other people can also perceive you correctly. I don't know if I explained that the best way, but basically labels are very helpful for other people to perceive us in the way that we want to be perceived, and they are also very helpful for gaining clarity about our own paths and who we are as practitioners or as people. I remember the first time that I called myself a witch. It was a profound experience because claiming this label, this title for myself, tapped me to my personal power. And prior to that reclamation, I was very much lost in a sense because I claimed the word witch for myself, the label, in my early teenage years. And if you're not new on the channel, you may know that I come from a very difficult family background. So, this is how labels can be helpful. But let's go back to the point of labels being limiting for you. How can a label be limiting? Easy. If you outgrow it. I've seen a lot of people that claim a label for themselves, but later down the road, their practice becomes stagnant. Why? Because they refuse to change, they refuse to shed that previous skin, that previous label. And they grow so attached to the label that their actual spiritual development starts to suffer. And this is also true for any label in your life that you use. If you get too attached to the word, it may cause stagnation for your development and evolution. So my advice is to be fluid with this. Use words to describe yourself and your practice very mindfully, but don't get too attached to them, so that when you feel inside of you that you have outgrown something, it becomes a problem to switch your descriptors or your labels. We are human. The spiritual path is a path of evolution. We are constantly growing and changing, and this is the goal. So, this is how using labels can be both helpful but limiting. You should be very mindful not to place yourself inside of a box and stop your growth because of this. And don't be afraid to explore practices and other lineages outside of the labels that you use for yourself currently. Of course, be respectful, and if it is a closed practice, do the appropriate, take the appropriate route to be initiated, etc. Be respectful, be mindful, and don't limit yourself. Okay, now let's move to the part of the video in which I speak about the labels that I have personally chosen for myself, why and what they mean. So let's start with an easy one. I call myself a spiritual practitioner. This label contains of two words, spiritual and practitioner. It's very self-explanatory. I dive into spirituality. My life is all about spirituality. And I practice it on the daily. When I wake up, the first thing is to make my offerings to Hekate, which is my mother, spiritual mother, or the main face of the divine that I am connected to. Let's put it that way. So, spiritual practitioner. I am spiritual being, just as you are. Every human is a spiritual being, whether or not he, she, or they realize it. And I practice that daily. So, next one. A witch. Another very popular label, being a witch. A lot of people think that being a witch is just someone who practices witchcraft, but I am very much of a different opinion. You can practice witchcraft, but not embody the true essence of what it means to be a witch. Witchcraft is something that you learn. Being a witch is something that you embody. It is a way of being, of existing, of living. What does it mean to be a witch for me? A witch is somebody that lives in the liminal. They are a liminal creature. Being a witch means that you live with one foot in the liminal and one foot in the mundane. You are at the border, even though there's no really a separation between spiritual and mundane, but that's a whole different conversation. But for the sake of this video and for explaining what a witch means for me, someone that doesn't truly belong anywhere. It is somebody from the outskirts of society, somebody that is on the liminal. Is the liminal itself. It embodies that liminal energy. For me, this is my understanding of a witch and what it means to be a witch. You may have a different understanding, and that's totally valid. I'm not here to preach or to uh, force my beliefs onto you. I'm here simply sharing how I perceive things and labels. So, yeah, a witch, somebody that lives in the liminal, 1 foot in the spiritual, 1 foot in the mundane. Being a witch is a deeply felt, lived experience. And being initiated into it, but being initiated into it by life itself, not by another person, but by your lived experience. Being a witch, like I said, for me is something that it's a way of being, of existing. It's not something that you do, it is who you are. And you are initiated in this title, label, if you will, by life. It is not enough to practice witchcraft. Nowadays, everybody is practicing witchcraft. Witchcraft is so popular, but a very small percentage of the people I see online that practice witchcraft truly embody that liminal energy of what it means to be a witch. So I make a clear distinction about that. Just like let's say you like to paint, but you do it as a hobby 3 times a year. This doesn't make you an artist. An artist lives and breathes to paint, to create, to express through that medium. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to explain, but that's it. For me, being a witch is something profound. It's how you move through the world every second of every day. It's you. It's not what you practice. It's not a choice to an extent. Yeah. It is a choice whether or not you use the word witch, but I don't think that people that truly embody this essence, that for them it is a choice. It's just the way they are, and that's it. It's something from within them. Okay, for me, why I use this term, this label, even though I don't use it publicly all that often, is for that reason, because I feel like my whole life I've been living in this liminal space for various reasons, for my upbringing, from my childhood, from different experiences. I've always found myself being in the liminal, neither here nor there, and some other factors. But the main reason that I resonate and that I adopt this label for myself of being a witch is because of that. Because it's something that's deeply felt within me. And if I never do another spell, that will be fine. It will be the same. By the way, I do practice witchcraft, but I do it only when life calls for it. I don't do spells every single day. That's not what it is about. And that doesn't make you a witch. So, yeah. Maybe this is a controversial take. I don't really care. It is my experience and how I perceive the label. So, the next one, mysticism. I consider myself to be a mystic. Let's clarify. Mysticism is the practice of becoming one with a chosen face of the divine. and focusing on a deeply personal, felt spiritual experience and spiritual path, rather than organized religion. From a very early age, I knew that organized religion wasn't for me. And I fought my battles within my family to be able to practice my beliefs. Uh, Mysticism, and why I consider myself to be a mystic. Because in my practice with Hekate, this is my goal. This is what I strive to achieve daily. Not that I do every single day, but I do strive to become one with her energy, and to move through the world embodying her energy, or at least my interpretation of her energy. Because let's be honest, all of those things are subjective. How I feel, how I perceive those labels and those things may be significantly different from how you do. And your point of view and my point of view are both valid for our lived experience. So, yeah, this whole conversation is personal and subjective. There are no rules, there are no consensual truths. Your truth is your truth, mine is mine, and that's fine. So, yeah, mysticism. I consider myself to be a mystic because I strive to become one with the energy of my goddess. The next one, occultist. And you can see this one in my actually channel name, the Art Occultist. Occultist is someone that studies the occult, the unseen, the mystical, and the magical. And I've been that person since I remember myself. So it's a very fitting label for me, occultist, because I do study a lot of different things that are in the spiritual sphere, let's put it that way. The next one, oracle. I have used this label of being an oracle previously online, but let's clarify what I understand an oracle to be. An oracle is someone that acts as a bridge between a spirit or a deity and other people, people that are not all that much into spirituality, if you will. Oracles, they provide messages to those people that don't have a personal interest in spirituality per se, if that makes sense. And I consider myself an oracle of Hekate because I do channeled messages from her, and I truly believe in those messages. And as of recently, I have a second channel, the Liminal Oracle, where I do exactly that. I act as an oracle for Hekate, and I do readings, channeling her wisdom and placing them for the public. So, yeah. The next one is an interesting one, and it's the label of priestess, being a priest or a priestess. What does it mean to be a priest or a priestess? It means that you serve a particular face of the divine, a particular deity or spirit. You serve them. You tend to their temple, to an altar, and you do rituals in their name. And in the past, and now also in the present day, this is a communal role, meaning that you cannot be a priest or a priestess without serving a community. Or if you are, it will be kind of strange, in my opinion, and in my understanding. If you use the word priestess, but you don't serve a larger community, you don't educate people about your deity, you don't hold rituals, communal rituals in their name. Yeah, and being a pagan or a spiritual person that follows a different spiritual path nowadays, it's different from what it was once upon a time, because now there are not so many public temples, if you will. There are ruins, but not so much of active temples for the ancient gods. For example, me as a Hecatean devotee, I cannot go out there and enter a temple of my goddess in the city where I live, because there is none. But for example, if I was a Christian, basically at every other corner in the city that I live in, there's a Christian church, and you can go inside and worship the Christian God. Uh, but I don't have that as a pagan or as a person that follows a different spiritual tradition, that the mainstream. So being a priest or a priestess nowadays, it holds different, not meaning, but it looks different than what it used to look like in ancient times. And there are a lot of people online that claim the title priestess. And some of them, yeah, they have larger online communities, but I don't know. For me, I always proceed with caution whenever I see somebody refers to themselves as priestesses. I don't know. This is just something that, yeah, I don't know. I mentioned another label just now, pagan. What does it mean to be pagan? In the modern day pagans, when you say somebody is a pagan, you understand that they follow a different spiritual tradition than the mainstream, and that they are most likely their path is nature-based, nature-focused. The word pagan actually translates as common folk, so that's it. Okay. The last one that I have is the label of devotee, which I am. I consider myself to be a devotee of Hekate, and also a follower of a few other beings, spiritual beings and entities. But let's address, what does it mean to be a devotee of a deity? Devotee. A devotee means that you are devoted to a god, goddess, spirit, and you have a committed relationship with them. This is how I interpreted it. You have a solid practice around them. Your spirituality revolves around them. Being a devotee is something very important. It's very personal. And I don't believe that you can be devoted to a lot of different deities at the same time. Once again, this is just my personal opinion. In my personal practice, I can say that I'm devoted to Hekate, and I have certain other beings that I connect to, but I am not their devotee. I'm not devoted to them to the extent that I'm to Hekate. I don't know if that makes sense. Tell me in the comment section down below, does this resonate with you and your experience? But yeah, being a devotee is being devoted to a face of the divine. Yeah, I think that those are all of the spiritual labels that I use to describe myself and that I wanted to touch upon in this particular video. The other one is that I use for myself, that is also in the name, is I call myself the Art Occultist. Art stands for being an artist, and I indeed am an artist. Since I was 3 years old, I knew that I wanted to be an artist when I grew up. And yeah, being an artist, just like being a witch, for me is something that is a calling. And not everybody is an artist or can be an artist. Everybody can create art and practice the process of creating art, but not everybody is an artist. For me, this is something that is internal, just like being a witch. It's something that if you don't do, you suffocate internally. For me, it has that effect that if I don't create, if I don't express myself artistically, I become depressed, and things just don't look good at all for me if I don't do those things. Same with being a witch and feeling that liminality. And yeah, but at the end of the day, spiritual labels are words that we use to describe processes, paths, and deeply felt spiritual experiences. So, in my personal opinion, it is very important to be very mindful of the words that you choose, just like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, but also be very precise of what those words mean to you personally. Because like I said, when I say that I'm a witch, I mean something very specific to me. And when you say you are being a pagan, a witch, or whatever you use to describe yourself, those words may hold different meaning for you. So it is very helpful when you communicate with other people and with yourself as well to clarify what you mean when you say certain things. So yeah, guys, this is my opinion on spiritual labels and the labels that I use for myself. Once again, this is deeply personal. You may not agree with things that I said in this video, and that's okay. Like I mentioned, personal experience, personal views. You are entitled to have your own, and we are both right. Okay, that's everything for today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for supporting me. Once again, I'm the Art Occultist. My name is Elisa. And yeah, this video was very insightful to make. And I hope you gained a better understanding of me as a person and as a practitioner. Yeah, that's it. So thank you once again. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and all the good YouTube stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.